National parks look peaceful by day, but when the sun goes down, rangers whisper about things the public is never supposed to hear. Tonight, you'll hear them. Danielle Fox liked working nights. The park after dark wasn't just beautiful. It felt older, more secretive, as if it were showing her a version the daytime hikers never got to see. She'd been a ranger for 6 years, and night patrols had become her private ritual. A thermos of coffee, the crunch of gravel under her boots, and the low hum of the forest breathing around her. That Thursday began with rain. A front had blown in from the west, drenching the ridgelines and filling the valleys with fog so thick her flashlight beam was swallowed after a few feet. She parked the patrol jeep at the end of a service road and started on foot toward the closed section of the trail known as Raven's Hollow, a part of the park they'd shut after a landslide last winter. No campers should have been there. About a mile in, she saw them. A family of 4 standing at the edge of the path. 2 adults, 2 children, old-fashioned gear, canvas rucksacks, heavy wool coats, boots with steel hooks for the laces. They looked like a postcard from the 1950s. The father raised his hand and called out politely, "Excuse me, miss." "Which way to the parking lot?" Danielle pointed back the way she'd come. "Trail's closed this way. Follow my light and you'll be fine." They nodded and headed off, their footsteps swallowed by the fog. 10 minutes later, on a completely different trail, she almost collided with him again. Same clothes, same polite smile, same question. Only this time the mother's eyes looked wrong. Deep pools of black reflecting nothing at all. And the children's mouths moved a second behind their words, like an old film reel out of sync. Her radio hissed, dispatch asking for a status update. She forced a laugh, gave her location, and said nothing about the family. Maybe she was overtired. Maybe it was a prank. But when she reached the ranger station, the monitors showed only her flashlight moving through the fog. No family, no footprints either. The mud on her boots was untouched in theirs. At midnight, the power flickered out. The backup generator hadn't failed in years, but the lights blinked and died, leaving only her radio crackling. Through the static came a child's whisper. "This way, Miss Fox." This way her skin crawled. She grabbed her sidearm, a spare flashlight, and stepped to the window. There they were again, the family of 4, standing just beyond the glass. Their smiles stretched wider now, cheeks pulling like wax softening near a flame. Their faces were blanker, smoother, as if someone had erased the details. All 4 raised their hands in perfect unison and pointed toward the woods. Danielle backed away, heart hammering. She tried the radio. Only static, then her own voice whispered back at her. "You're late." The doorknob turned. She hadn't touched it. Cold air swept in, carrying the smell of wet earth and something metallic, like pennies on the tongue. She slammed the door and bolted it, but a knock came immediately, slow, deliberate, 4 beats. Another knock answered from the back door, then from the ceiling, as if something were crawling across the roof. The station's wall clock stopped at 12:33. Her watch hand spun backward. The family's silhouettes pressed against the windows now, faces fully blank, like plastic molds waiting to be filled. The smallest child tilted its head, and a paper-thin voice hissed, "Who will guide us?" She realized they weren't asking for directions. They were inviting her. Her radio came alive one last time. A distorted version of her own voice said, Follow them, Danielle, or they'll come inside. Every instinct screamed to barricade herself, but the air grew heavier, as if the station itself were sinking. Cabinets rattled, the floorboards bowed, the faces outside blurred together into a single tall shadow. She drew her gun. "Stay back," she yelled, but the sound came out muffled, as though she were already underwater. The shadow outside lifted an arm and pointed again. This time she heard it clearly inside her head. "Come home." Her flashlight flickered and died. Total darkness. She fired twice at the window. No shatter, no recoil, just a dull thud as the bullets vanished into blackness. The next moment, she found herself standing at the trailhead again, rain gone, dawn creeping between the trees. The ranger station was behind her, only it was an empty concrete foundation, long since demolished. Moss grew over broken tiles where the desk should have been. Her radio, hanging from her belt, clicked on. A calm child's voice said, "Thank you for showing us the way." Then silence. Later that morning, a search team found her Jeep still running, but no sign of her. On the security tapes, she never left the station. She simply stops mid-stride and fades like mist. In the background of the last frame, 4 indistinct shapes stand in the doorway, hands raised in a silent wave. Mark Ortega had worked Yellowstone night dispatch for nearly a decade. He liked the solitude of the ranger station at 2 a.m, the faint hiss of coffee on the hot plate, the steady hum of the base radio, the muted roar of distant geysers. In winter, the park went quiet and white, a wilderness wrapped in snow and steam. That Tuesday night, a blizzard rolled in. Snow blew sideways across the windows, rattling the panes. Mark sat alone with his logbook open, noting the temperature drop, when Channel 7 hissed and cracked to life. "Mark." He frowned. No one called him by his first name on the radio. "Dispatch. Identify yourself." A pause, then, "Don't go outside. Stay where you are." The voice was his own. Mark stared at the speaker. Some prank? The younger rangers liked to toy with the channels. "Very funny," he muttered, and reached for the dial. But the voice returned, a whisper echoing in metallic static. "They're coming through the old basin. Do not answer them." The hairs on his arms rose. The old basin referred to the fire hole collapse, a geothermal field closed after a deadly cave-in 20 years ago. The area was off limits. No power, no cameras, no radio repeaters. He tried calling Tower 2 for confirmation. Only dead air. Snow gusted harder against the windows. Then his radio hissed again, louder, and his own voice said, "Mark, you have a scar on your left hand from the gas pump fire. Your wedding ring is in the second desk drawer." This is not a prank. Mark's stomach turned cold. No one at the station knew those details. He slammed the logbook shut, grabbed his parka and sidearm. Against every warning, he had to see for himself. He threw the Jeep into gear and drove the snow-choked road toward the old basin, windshield wipers squealing. Half an hour later, he crested the final hill. Steam drifted up from cracked earth where snow should have lain. And in the heart of the basin moved faint orange lights, bobbing like lanterns through the fog. His radio hissed, "Do not answer them." Through the windshield shapes appeared men in outdated ranger uniforms from the 1950s, faces blackened, fissured as though burned. Each held a long pole topped with a flickering flame. They walked in perfect unison between the vents, silent. Mark reached for the mic. "Identify yourselves," he shouted. All the lantern bearers stopped and turned toward him in one motion. The Jeep engine coughed and died. Snow fell silently. The radio squealed feedback, then his own voice, urgent. "Get out now." He tumbled from the vehicle, boots crunching on frozen crust, and stumbled into the steam. Heat clung to his skin. His flashlight beam barely cut the fog. A figure emerged. It wore his parka, his badge, his face. "Go back," the double said. "They're not people." Mark tried to run, but the ground softened under his feet, warm and wet like flesh. More shapes moved in the mist, charred rangers, mouths opening soundlessly. Hands reached out, cracked fingers curling. Steam burned his throat. He bolted toward the Jeep, but it was gone. Only white vapor and a faint glow where the headlights had been. The radio on his belt screamed, a high-pitched wail. Then his own voice whispered into his ear, right beside him. "You're already here." A hot hand clamped his shoulder, warm, calloused, wearing his own wedding ring. The double leaned close, face peeling into ash. "Stay with us." "We keep the fires burning," Mark tried to shout, but his breath turned to steam and vanished. The last thing he saw was the circle of lantern bearers closing in, their flames guttering into darkness. At dawn, a snowplow crew found the Jeep idling at the end of a closed road, doors open, driver's seat empty. The radio handset lay on the dash. When a ranger picked it up, it hissed and played back Mark Ortega's voice in a calm monotone. "Channel 7 secure, watching the fires." There was no signal from Channel 7. The firehole collapse basin remained officially sealed. But that night, the park's dispatch logs recorded a single unscheduled transmission at 3:17 a.m. Mark Ortega reporting, all clear in the old basin. No one at the station had touched the mic. Emily Cho had been on the job only 3 weeks when dispatch sent her to check on Tower 13. She sat up straight in the cab of the skiff. "Tower 13?" she asked. The Everglades had 12 fire towers. She'd memorized them for training. There was no 13. Static filled the radio. Then a man's voice, flat and unfamiliar, said, "Confirm Tower 13." Lamps burning red, and the line went dead. She tried to laugh it off, but the hairs on her arms stood up. The GPS arrow on her screen blinked and shifted, plotting a new course deep into a mangrove labyrinth. The channel markers were old, rust-stained, like no one had used the route in years. She throttled the skiff forward anyway, telling herself this was just another rookie errand. The sun sank. The swamp turned black and silver. Mangrove roots arched overhead like ribs. Her radio hissed softly on her hip. Every few minutes, she thought she heard a voice. A murmur of her name, a breathless, "Come on." But when she grabbed the mic, there was only static. After an hour, she saw it. A tower rising out of the water, skeletal, its supports lost in the blackness below. It looked like a fire lookout, but wrong, slanted, rotting. At the top, a single lamp glowed a deep, pulsing red, as if it were alive. The steps were slick with algae, but glistening wet as though someone had just climbed them. Emily tied off the skiff and started up, boots sliding. Halfway to the cabin, the radio cut out completely, replaced by a low thump, 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 like a heartbeat through a wall. She told herself it was the generator. But Tower 13 had no generator. At the top, she found a small cabin with its door ajar. Inside was a logbook on a metal desk. Her stomach went cold. Every page was filled with her own handwriting, dated in the future. The entries described things she hadn't done yet. 9:17 p.m. The water rises. 9:33 p.m. The ones under the floor. In the margin, a note in a stranger's hand read, "Shut the door before you look down." A splash echoed outside. She stepped to the window. Below, the swamp had gone mirror still. Dozens of pale faces floated just beneath the surface, eyes open, mouths moving silently. They were all looking up at her. She stumbled back, heart racing. The radio hissed. A deep male voice whispered, "Step inside." Shut the door. Look at the lamp. Against her better judgment, she obeyed, pulling the door closed. The latch clicked on its own. The heartbeat sound grew louder, syncing with hers. The lamp outside the window flared crimson, flooding the room with pulsing light. For a moment, she thought she saw the faces under the water rising, climbing invisible stairs toward her. She grabbed the logbook and flipped pages wildly. The last line read, 10:01 p.m. I look into the lamp and see myself watching. Her radio spoke again, the voice now inches from her ear. "Welcome to the watch." She spun around. No one there. The red light burned brighter until it was the only thing she could see. The floor felt soft under her boots, sagging. A smell like wet metal filled her nose. Something moved beneath the planks, many somethings, pressing upward as if to break through. The door handle rattled. She tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. The lamp's pulse slowed. Her own heartbeat slowed with it. She felt the tower tilting, sinking into the black water. Then silence. Daylight. Emily blinked. She was sitting on the top step of the tower, alone. The lamp was gone. The cabin was empty except for a single blank logbook. Below, nothing but open water. The skiff floated untied 50 yards away. She scrambled down the steps. They ended 3 feet above the surface. The supports beneath vanished into nothing. The tower felt cold, metallic. She leapt into the skiff and gunned the engine, not looking back until the GPS beeped. The screen showed her drifting in open marsh. No tower, no coordinates. Only a note typed into the navigation field. Tower 13 secure. Watching the fire. That afternoon, a search helicopter spotted her skiff circling a stand of mangroves with no one aboard. Emily's radio was clipped to the seat. When a rescuer keyed the mic, a woman's calm voice replied, "Tower 13 secure." Lamp red, then static. Official records show no Tower 13 in Everglades National Park. Yet, at 3:33 a.m. that night, the dispatch system logged an unscheduled transmission from an unassigned tower frequency. It was Emily's voice, calm and distant. Tower 13 secure. Watching the fire. The system flagged the message as routine status and erased it automatically at dawn.